Audie Murphy. Today I'm going to tell you about my life. I was born on June 20th, 1925 in Kingston, Texas. I was the most decorated soldier in World War II. I was raised in a very poor family, and I was one of 12 children. I would help to feed my family by hunting small animals on our property. My father left us, and my mother passed away soon after he left. After my mother passed away, I wanted to honor her, so I enlisted into the Army just after my 17th birthday. While in the Army, I quickly impressed my superiors and was promoted to corporal. Even when sick reading, I still fought battles. Through protecting my fellow men, I was rewarded 33 U.S. military medals, including 3 Purple Hearts and 1 Medal of Honor. After the Army, I wrote a book about my experience. I was also asked to come to Hollywood to be an actor. I was in 44 feature films. Later in my life, I wasted all my money by gambling. I died in a plane crash on May 28, 1971. I hope people remember me as a hero.
Hi, I am Anne Frank. I was born on June 12, 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany. I was a Jewish teenager who went into hiding during the Holocaust. I wrote a journal about my experience during this time. My mother's name was Edith and my father's name was Otto. I had an older sister named Margot. I had a very loving family. However, things were changing in Germany, and when the Nazi Party took over, we decided it was time to flee. We moved to Amsterdam, Netherlands in the fall of 1933. Throughout the 1930s, I lived a happy life. I attended a Montessori school and had many friends. And unfortunately, the Nazis invaded the Netherlands in 1940 and took away many of our rights. My family went into hiding for 2 years, never walking outside. My family and I were caught by the Nazis and taken to concentration camps. Sadly, I didn't have the chance to be an adult. My sister and I died within a day of each other due to the falling ill with Tiberius. It was just weeks before we would have been freed. I was only 15 years old. My legacy will live on through the diary I wrote, which can be read by anyone who is interested in my story.
Hi, my name is Neil Armstrong. I was born on August 5th. Hi, my name is Neil Armstrong. I was born on August 5th, 1930 in Walkapama, Ohio. I was an astronaut and was the first man to walk on the moon. I survived in the Korean War, went to puberty on a Navy scholarship. In 1962, I joined NASA, where I survived as a test point and energy. On July 2018, 1956, I married Jen Seren, and we had 2 boys and a girl. In 1969, I was part of the first manned mission to the moon. On July 16, 1699, at 10:56 p.m., I took my first step into the moon. So that's one small step, man of Grant. Late for Mark Ren, the space run of her. Of this action, I died at the age of 82 years old. I live on through movies, books, and my love of space.
Hi, my name is Stanley. I was born on December 28, 1922
in New York City. I'm famous for making comics about Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, X-Men, and working for Marvel Comics. I grew up during the Great Depression, and my family struggled during this time. As I got older, I became an assistant at Timely Comics, and then went on to be an editor. I also worked for the Army during World War II as a writer and illustrator in the early 1960s. I created the Fantastic Four. After creating this, it led the way for other characters such as Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and X-Men. All of these comics became very popular. Many of my comics were turned into blockbuster hits. I died when I was 95 years old in Los Angeles, CA.
Hi, my name is Leonidas. I was born in 540 BC in Sparta, Greece. I was the king of Sparta from 489 to 480 BC. I led Spartan warriors in many battles, but during a great war against probably 100,000 Persian soldiers, I died. We held them off for 7 days. I knew that we were outnumbered, so I sent most of my 7,000 soldiers home. Just 300 of my finest Spartan warriors stayed with me, and we fought to the death. I died a hero's death and gained love and respect of many men. In the future, 2 bronze statues have been made in my honor. I am the main character in many books, poems, movies, and video games. Even now, in this day and age, people name their children after me, and they choose the reports on me in school.
Hi, my name is Marie Antoinette, and I was born on November 2nd, 1755 in Vienna, Austria. I was the last queen of France. I was the youngest daughter of Holy Roman Empire Francis. I am Marie Teresa. I was only 14 when my parents had me married to the Dauphin Louis, grandson of Louis XVI of France. For diplomatic purposes in 1774, when my husband took the throne as Louis XVI, I became queen. I was born in Australian. I was a teen idol. France hoped our marriage would strengthen its alliance with Austria, its longtime enemy. In 1774, with the death of King Louis XVI, Louis and I were crowned king and queen of France. I belong to a large family. Unlike during my years as queen, I captivated the French public in my early years in the country. When I made my initial appearance in French capital, a crowd of 50,000 pedestrians grew so uncontrollable that at least 30 people were trampled to death in the crush. I met Mozart when we were both children. My journey to France was a lavish affair, but I lost my dog along the way. My brother was enlisted to solve my mortar problems, associated with the decline in martial authority of the French martyr in the closing years of the ancient region. Through my correctly extravagance, what was but a minor cause of the discords of the French state. In that period, my and of reform provoked unrest, and my policy of court to the progress of the French Revolution finally led to the overthrow of the monarchy. In August 1792, the royal family had to leave Versailles in 1789 and live captivity in Paris. I was executed on October 16th, 1793 at the age of 37.
Hi, my name is Abraham Lincoln. I was born on February 12, 1809 in Kentucky. I was the 16th President of the United States of America. I grew up in Indiana where my family built a cabin. Frontier life is very hard. My mother died when I was only 9 years old. Later on, my father brought home a new wife named Sarah, who became a wonderful mother to me. I grew up with a love of reading and learning. Later on in life, I became a lawyer. I married Mary Todd on November 4th, 1842, and we had 4 sons. Only one of them survived to adulthood. After becoming a lawyer, I then went to politics. I then became the 16th President of the United States of America. Fortunately, I was assassinated on April 14th, 1856 by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. To some, I'll always be regarded to help stop slavery.
Hi, my name is Booker T. Washington. I was born in the 1450s. When I was 8, I held books for little girls. My mom was a slave and she was harder than others. When I turned 13, I went to school. I only had one chance to learn at school. When I was 24, my dad told me to quit school to mine in the ground. My dad was a slave and he was 54 when he died. The reason he died was because he wasn't supposed to look for food. We had to agree to suffer, but my dad didn't want to listen, so he kept looking for food. My brother came looking for my dad. My mom died 3 years after that. My brother and I didn't know what to do, so we ran away and we were caught. 13 years after that, I got a job as a lawyer at the age 45. I was in luck. I haven't made it this far if it wasn't for my friend president. I quit to work for the president until he died. He was murdered, and there was a new president. That day, they made a deal with me, and I agreed. I was reading the book, and I was shot dead. Some people remember me on this day, but not others. The love that I steps to put in the world will always come back to me, because when I was a kid, I was believing whatever you believe you can achieve. The good that I put in the world will always come back to me.
Hello, my name is Harriet Tubman, and let's start from the beginning. I was born into slavery on Maryland's eastern shore around the 1800s. I was named Araminta, and my nickname was Minty. My parents' names were Ben and Rit Ross. I was one of 11 children of my parents. As a child, I was hired out by my master as a nursemaid for a small baby. Much like the nursemaid in the picture, I had to stay awake all night so the baby would not cry and wake the mother. If I fell asleep, the baby's mom waked me. From a very young age, I was determined to gain my freedom. As a slave, I was scared for life when I refused to help in the punishment of another young slave. A young man had gone to the store without permission, and when he returned, the overseer wanted to whip him. I escaped to the north in 1849 and risked my whole life to lead other enslaved people. Sadly, I died on March 10, 1913. A Harriet Tubman quote is, "I never ran my train off the track and I never lost a passenger."
Hi, I'm Joseph Stalin. I was born December 8th in 1878 in Goree, Georgia. I was the occupation leader of the Salvation Union. I was born in the country of Israel, Joseph E. Love, in Goree, Georgia, to a cobbler and a house cleaner. I grew up in the city and attended school before moving to Tiflis modern day. My dictator's achievement was the creation of an elaborate, brutalized administration machinery based on the inkling of the Communist Party. From 1928 until my death In 1953, I ruled the Salvation Union as a dictator, transforming the country from a grunt peasant society into a global superpower. But I died March 5th. Interesting facts, I got the name Stalin while I was revolutionary. Before Lenin died, I wrote a testament where I recommended that I, Stalin, be removed from power. Before I had the name Stalin, I used the name Koba. My right-hand man's been enslaved multiple. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Taylor. I was born February 27, London, England in 1932. My American parents were art dealers. Soon after, I was famous for having many marriages. After that, Anne Frank and I, we were both in World War II. My passion was to do art and crafts, calligraphy. Another passion is that I like food, internet surfing, and music and sports. My early life, I did some films. One of them was Born Every Minute, and I achieved stardom National Velvet in 1944. Although I won Academy Awards for Working Butterfield and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I had 80 years of experience. I acted for 80 years. In 1942, a film that I did, it was called Born Every Minute. I achieved awards for acting for 80 years. I am famous for many marriages and movies as well as children. Another thing I'm famous for is my velvet eyes. In total, I had 8 marriages to 7 men. The second to Michael Wilding, the third to Michael Todd, the fourth to Eddie Fisher, the fifth and sixth to Richard Breton, and the seventh to John Warner, and the final marriage was to Larry Vertinsky. I was born February 27th, London, England in 1932. In 1942, I make my screen debut at the age of 10 in There's One Born Every Minute. In 1943, in 1944, appears in Lacey Come Home, her first film with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and with Mickey Rooney, and becomes a major child star. I died from congestive heart failure at the age of 79. Here's what immediately comes to mind. Passionate love affairs with 8 marriages to 7 husbands and purchase of 4 expensive jewels.
Hello, I'm Beatrix Potter. I was born on July 28, 1866 in London. My father studied law but was really an artist, and so was my mother. I grew up playing with my brother outside and began to love animals. I grew up to become an English writer, illustrator, and natural scientist. My most famous book, Peter Rabbit, it was published in 1902. I wrote more than 20 other children's books before I passed away in December of 1903.
Hi, my name is Susan B. Anthony. I was born on February 15, 1820. My parents are Lucy Anthony, Daniel Anthony, and Daniel Anthony, Leoma Anthony, Mira Anthony, Eliza Test Anthony, and Hannah Anthony is also my sister. I was a pioneer crusader for women's suffrage in the United States. I was a president from 1892 to 1900 of the National Women's Suffrage Association. My work helped pave the way for the 19th Amendment 1920 Constitution, giving women the right to vote, who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. I was among the top leaders in the Equal Rights Association. I was among the anti-slavery efforts led by the United States. I died in March 13, 1906. I died by heart failure in pneumonia. I was a well-known civil rights activist and prominent leader in the women's suffrage movement.
Hi, my name is Janice Antetokounmpo. I was born in December 6, 1996 in Athens, Greece. I am a famous basketball player. I play for the Between Bucks basketball team. I was born to immigrant parents. I have 4 brothers. I began playing basketball at a very young age. I entered into the 2013 NBA draft where I was the 5th overall pick. I received the Most Proud Player awards in 2027. After that, I received many more awards. When I signed my NBA contract with the Bucks at age 18, I was one of the youngest players ever. I have led the Bucks to many wins and championships. I am one of the highest paid players in NBA history. I still play for the Bucks and continuing to help them be one of the best teams out there.
Hi, my name is Will Smith. I'm 53 years old. I was born September 25th, 1968 at Philadelphia, PA, and my dream was to become a movie star and a rapper, and I actually followed my dream. I started movies and rapping. I can solve a Rubik's Cube in 55 seconds. I got $100 million before the age of 18. And I have 3 kids. Their names are Jaden Smith, Willow Smith, and Trey Smith. They are pretty good. I have a good childhood, and I can't really believe I actually made it to being famous and being in a movie. I'm so happy, and I'm famous for movies, rapping, good looks, nice cut. Life is fun, and I got no complaints, and it's actually kind of nice. Life is fun, and I love making movies. It's my number one thing. And I have 3 kids, and I also have a wife. Her name is Pinkett Smith. She's really lovely. My childhood is so good. They want to become a rapper and a movie star just like me. I have a really good life. It's the best one, and my life is not ended yet. I'm happy because I get to make more movies. This is my life.
Hi, my name is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I was born into a professional wrestling family on May 2nd, 1972. I'm a popular wrestler and movie star. I grew up in Southern California watching my father, Ricky Johnson, perform in the ring. I watched my father be a professional wrestler, and I knew I didn't want to do that, so I went to college at the University of Miami and played football. After I got injured in football, I then went into professional wrestling for the WWE. I won a total of 17 WWE titles over the course of my career. In August 2019, I married singer-songwriter Leanne Hashley. We had 2 daughters together. Becoming a famous wrestler helped me break into the movie industry. My first role was as the Scorpion King in the movie The Mummy Returns. My movie career continues to be strong, and I am still making many movies.
Biography of Usain Bolt by Nathaniel Schmitz. I had a spiritual promotion for my most famous victory, though I was mainly remembered as a warrior and political leader. I was also Lakato Waskan Wakan, a type of sight and prophecy. As early as the age 14 as a warrior, I often fought both other Native American tribes and American soldiers. After a battle with American soldiers at Kildare Mountain in 1864, I became determined to keep my people away from white people. I was born into the Hunkapapa division of Teton Sixtus. I joined my first war party at the age of 14 and soon gained reputation for fearless and bow. In 1866, I became principal chief of the Northern Hunting Sixtus with Crazy Horse, leader of the Oglala Sixtus, as his vice chief, as political and spiritual leader of the Sixtus warriors who destroyed General George Armstrong Custer's force in the famous Battle of Little Bighorn. Years later, I joined Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show. I was a war leader and spiritual leader behind the WAM Sixtus Nation United West, dominated by white people. Number 1. In 1885, I was a part of Buffalo Bill's popular Wild West show, which gained me international fame. I was a war leader and spiritual leader behind the WAM Sixtus Nation United West, dominated by white people. I was originally named Jumping Badger, as credited with several legendary acts of bravery. As the first man to become chief of the entire Lakota Siksha Nation, I had a spiritual promotion of my most famous victory. I was born in 1831 near the Grand River, South Dakota. I died on December 15th, 1890, Grand River, South Dakota. 7. On December 15th, 1890, an Indian police woke me up in my bed at 6 a.m. When I refused to go quietly, a crowd gathered and a young man shot the member of the Indian police. I died instantly from the gunshot wounds. He shot my person and me. And I was the Indian police.
Hi, my name is Candace Parker. I was born on April 19, 1986 in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a WNBA star player on the Chicago Sky basketball team. I have 2 older brothers. One of my brothers was a professional basketball player. I fell in love with the game basketball at a very young age. I went to the University of Tennessee where I played basketball. I have won 2 most valuable player awards, All-Star Game MVP, 2 Olympic gold medals, and WNBA Rookie of the Year. I have a daughter named Layla. I am still alive today playing basketball, becoming a broadcaster, and inspiring young women everywhere.
Hi, my name is Tony Hawk. I was born on May 12th, 1968. I was in Carlsbad, California. I am a very famous skateboarder. As a kid, I was intelligent, high-strung, and hyperactive. A combination my mother once described as challenging. When I was 9, I received a skateboard from my older brother. That gift changed my life and gave me an outlet for all my energy. I compete in many X Games. Also, I was married many times. I have 3 sons and a daughter. One of my sons followed in my footsteps and now is a great skateboarder. I'm still alive today. I am very famous for my skateboarding skills and being the first person to do 900. Also, I made many video games. Hi, my name is Martin. Hi, my name is Martin Luther King Jr. I born January 15, 1929 in Georgia. I born as the middle child, born to Michael, a brother King. I have a little brother and a big sister. I get 2 grades in high school. I go to college. So age 15. After college, I became a minister and a civil rights activist. My grandfather and my father, they ministers. I wanted all kind people to live together, to peace, in peace. I won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. I was sanctioned by James Owen on April 4th, 1968. I still live on my
You got it?
the famous through my favorite beach. I have a dream. Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Joe Biden, and I'm the President of the United States. When I birthed my work as an before turning to policies. I became the 5th youngest U.S. senior. Barack Obama and I went on to serve 2 terms as the 47th Vice President of the United States. In 2017, at the close of my Obama presented me with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. 2 years later, I launched my campaign for U.S. President and was elected as the
46th President of the United States. Early years, long before reaching one of the highest policy offices in the nation. I was born on November 20, 1942. Grew up in a blue-collar city in northeast Pennsylvania. My father, Joseph Biden Sr., worked cleaning furnaces and as a used car salesman. My mother was Catherine Eugene. I credit my parents with instilling in my thoughtness. I attended State Falls Elementary School in Secretariat in 1955 when I was 13 years old. As a child, I struggled with study, and kids called me Dash and Joe to mock me, college, marriage, and school, and law school. I'm a university student named Nellie Hunter, and in my own words, realized over tin cup and love at first sight. Encouraged by my new love, I applied myself more fully to my studies and was accepted into the Secretariat University Law School. Upon my graduation from in 1965, I married Nellie Hunter the next year in 1966. I was the best at a law student during my first year at I flunked a class for failing to properly reference to a law review objective. Although I claimed it was an accidental oversight, the incident would haunt me later career.
Hello, I'm Leonardo da Vinci, and I was born out of wedlock. My father and stepmother raised me for the first 5 years. When I was 5, I went to live in the city of Vinci, named after my family, with my uncle and grandparents. I was a bright child who loved to learn. I received a basic education at home. When I was 14, my grandparents sent me to apprentice with a famous artist in Florence. While there, I learned a lot about drawing, painting, and sculpturing. When I was 20, I accepted a master artist in Florence Guild. This meant that I could open an art studio of my own. My famous art paintings are the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. Did you know that I was also a great inventor? I invented a flying machine, which is what you would nowadays call a helicopter. I most likely died of a stroke. Medicine was not as advanced back in my day. I died on May 2nd, 1519. I was 67 years old.
Abraham Lincoln. I was born in February 12, 1809. My height is 6.4. I have 2 kids and 1 boy and 1 girl. I grew up in a small pioneer family. I had an older sister and a younger brother. Sadly, my mom died when I was 9 years old, and I was very angry for a long time. After that, a year after my mom passed, my father got remarried and I got 3 stepsisters. I really loved my stepmom and she engineered me to get an education. Did you know that neither my dad or stepmom had any education? When I was a young adult, I would walk miles to check out books from the library. I also worked many different jobs. For example, I was a shopkeeper and mailman. In 1834, I decided to become a lawyer. I taught myself the law and then took the bar. I made a good living as an attorney. In 1842, I married my wife, Mary Todd. Mary and I had 4 sons. Sadly, only one of our children survived into adulthood. After my marriage, I decided to run for Courageous. I served in the House from 1847 through 1849. In 1858, I ran for the Senate. In 1860, I ran for the presidency. I became the 16th president of the United States. I'm best remembered for helping our country through the Civil War and for singing the, I don't know the word. It's hard. Freeing the slaves that was shot and killed on April 14th, 1865.
My name is Amelia Earhart. I was born on July 24th, 1897 in my grandmother's house in Kansas. My family was rich, however, my father had trouble keeping track of all of it. When I was 7, my family took a trip to the World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri. My sister and I fell in love with the roller coaster, so when we got home, we tried to build one in our backyard. I was the first to ride our roller coaster. I went down head first and crashed. We made some changes and our roller coaster was a success. During the summer before my 8th grade year, we went to another fair called the Ohio State Fair. That is where I saw my first airplane. My teenager years were hard. My parents split up and my mom, sister, and I moved to Chicago. When I was 19 years old, I boarded a train for the August school in Pennsville. I didn't mind going far from home. I was starting at a new adventure. I learned a lot at school. Sadly, World War I broke out, and I decided not to return to school. Instead, I trained to be a nurse aide. I wanted to help people that were injured in the war. After the war ended, I moved to New York and enrolled at Alabama University. Most women at the time wanted to be married and start a new family. Not me. I wanted a career. I just didn't know which one to choose. After a while, I dropped out and went to live with my parents. They got back together in California. On Christmas Day, in 1920, my life changed. I went to an air show and decided to get my pilot's license. By December 15th, 1921, I was a licensed pilot. I flew in many air shows and races. I became a celebrity in 1930. I got news that my father had cancer. I flew to help take care of him. He died 4 days later. In 1932, he decided to be the first female to fly solo across the Atlantic.
After flying across the Atlantic, President Hoover gave me a Medal of Honor in 1937. I decided that I wanted to fly around the world. I took off May 21st from Oakland, California. The trip started well, but we all know it didn't end well. On July 2nd, I took off from New Guinea. I got into trouble when I couldn't find Howland Island. I was never seen or heard from again. Many people throughout the years have been searching for me.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Franklin. I was born January 17th, 1706. I was born on Milk Street in Boston, Massachusetts. I, Benjamin Franklin, loved to read, and I would always go to the library to get books. I also saved a lot of money because I would borrow books from my friends and saved every penny. I went to school and I was the youngest out of 17 kids. My accomplishments include being the author of the American Declaration of Independence. In 1776, I was appointed as a member of the Committee of Five that would go on the draft of the Declaration. I invented the Franklin stove and the lightning rod. That is what I'm famous for. I ended my life April 17th, 1790, when I was 84 years old. The cause of my death was emphysema brought by attacks of pleurisy, which I had suffered earlier in my life. 1, I only had 2 years of formal education. 2, I became a hit writer as a teenager.
I was born in Ohio on April 27, 1822. I was an American military officer and politician. I served as the 18th President of the United States of America. I was the son of Jesse Grant. My father was a tanner. I hated everything to do with the tanning business, so I would help out on local farms. When I was old enough, my father got me admitted to West Point Academy in New York. I had no interest in the military. However, I did want an education, and going to West Point was the only way for me to get an education, so I agreed. During the Civil War, I helped to recruit soldiers. I was soon appointed as a general for my efforts. Before the end of the year, I was awarded Brigadier General. The Civil War. Next, I was promoted to Major General, and I fought against Robert E. Lee during the Civil War. I became very popular because of all of the successful battles I won during the war. In 1869, I became the youngest president of the United States. I supported women's rights. I also got, I was president, and I had, after leaving office, I set forth on and around the world trip. We were greeted with warm welcomes, and I was treated like a hero. We met kings and queens from all over the world. I died on July 23rd, 1885. We lived until 1902, and we were very together then.
Hi, my name is Russell Parks. I was born February 4th, 1913. I was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. I had a younger brother named Sylvester, and our parents were Leanna and James McCallie. When I was 2, my mom, my little brother, and I
went to live with my mom's parents in Pine Level, Alabama. It turns out my grandparents were slaves. They taught me to treat people the way you want to be treated and treat them kindly. I got married to Raymond Parks in 1932. I belonged to the National Association of Colored People who wanted equal rights for African American people. 9 months before I got arrested on the Montgomery bus, Claudette Colvin was actually the first one to get arrested on the for refusing to give up her seat to a white person. I was seated in the black section, but when the white sections filled up, the bus driver asked me to move for a white person. I refused to move from my seat. I was 92 when I died. I died October 24th, 2004. I died at my house in Detroit, and my only sibling died of cancer that November. You can do it. You only need a heart full of love and grace.
Hi, I'm Thomas Edison. I was born on February 11th. Hi, I'm Thomas Edison. I was born on February 11th, 1847 in Millen, Ohio. I live by Lake Erie. I had a bad childhood. I had scarlet fever, so I had poor hearing. At 7, I moved to Port Huron. I made a motion camera. I also improved the telegraph and the telephone. When I was 12, I set up a chemistry lab. My first 2 children names are Dot and Dash. My mother, who was a teacher, taught me at home. My mother helped me become motivated for learning, and I was a good student to her. At age 16, I built my first invention, which I called an automatic repeater. In 1868, I moved to the East and began to work for the Western Union Company in Boston, Massachusetts. As a telegraph operator, I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and continued to moonlight on my own projects. Within 6 months, I had applied for and received my first patent for the electric vote recorder. My invention made the voting process faster, but I could not find buyers. Then I moved to New York and began working for a company fixing their machines. At night, I continued to work on the project using punch tape to send telegraph signals quickly between unnamed stations, more quickly than a telegraph operator could do. For the last 2 series, a series of ailments caused my health to decline even more until I elapsed into a coma on October 14th, 1931. I died on October 18th, 1931 at my estate in Glenmont in West Orange, New Jersey.
Hello, I'm Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was born on January 15th, 1929. I was born Michael King Jr. and I had an older sister and a younger brother. We grew up together in rural Georgia. My parents were kind and loving. I went to public schools in the South. My parents tried their best they could to shield me from racism. I was a strong student and skipped both 9th and 11th grades. I attended Morehouse College and followed my dad's footsteps into the seminary. I enrolled in Boston College to get my doctorate, and that is where I met my wife, Coloretta. Coloretta and I had 3 kids named Bernice King, Yolanda King, and Dexter King. I became a pastor, and I helped to lead the fight for our civil rights. I believed in peaceful demonstrations and nonviolence. I was arrested several times for my beliefs. My most famous speech was, "I have a dream." I'm sure you've heard of it, right? Sadly, I got shot and died on April 4th, 1968.
Hi, my name is Henry Killow. I was born on June 27, 1880 in Chesla and Bramlett. I was sick most of my childhood. My illness left me blind and deaf. I was a sweet girl who became a wild kid. I kicked and screamed to tell people I was hungry old child. I put my fingers into everyone's food. My parents were at a loss as to how to help me. Then one day my mom heard about a special eye doctor. He said that he couldn't kill me, but for my family not to worry. Then he told my parents about a special school for blind and deaf people like me. My teacher was Anna Sienna, and she agreed to come live in our house and teach me, and Anna was very patient with me and helped me learn how to communicate. I will never forget the day I learned how to spell water and to feel what water felt like. It changed my whole life. My parents called pills a miracle. Then I was 8 years old. Anna and I moved to Basla so that I could create a special school where I learned Brandla. For writing at I could read using my fingers. I learned to write using a Basla typewriting. Then I finally learned how to speak and also mastered reading people's lips. I agreed once in college in 1900. In college, I wrote a book about my life called The Story of My Life. My book sold thousands of copies. Soon Anna and I began to travel the world. Everyone wanted to meet me and heard about my stories. I met many famous people and presidents. I died on June 1968, just a few weeks before my 80th birthday.
George Washington. Hello, I'm George Washington. Well, you may be asking, why are you famous? Well, I fought for independence. I am the first president. I am known as the father of our country. I was born in 1732. When I was a kid, land that is known as a superior. I also was great at school and people liked being my friends. I played with my siblings. Then I fought for independence. After that, we won. Then we had another war. I was the leader, and we had to call people to join us again. We won. Then I died at the age of 67 on December 22nd, 1799. I am George Washington, and I am famous for fighting for independence.
Hello, my name is Betsy Loss. I was born on January 1st, 1752. My birth name was Elizabeth Grace, and my family lived in Philadelphia at the time. I was a fourth generation of America. I had a huge family. I had 16 brothers and sisters. Me and my sisters went to an aquatic school where I learned to sew. After completing my schooling, my father had me work for a local camp. At the age of 17, I met and fell in love with other workers named John Ross. John and his family predicted a different relationship than my family when we married. Suddenly, my family stopped seeing me. Soon after our marriage, John and I opened up our relationship shop. I was after a long great needle. My husband John was killed at the very beginning of the American relationships in 1776. I worked night and day in our little shop making flags. I was married a total of 3 times. My first 2 husbands died shortly after our marriage. My third husband, John, and I were married for 34 years. I died on January 30th, 1836. My grandson shared the story of me making the first flag 50 years after my death. The story he told is that I was visiting George Washington, who asked me to make a flag.
Hi, I am Mother Teresa. I was born on August 26, 1910. I got married in 1937. I also won the Nobel Peace Prize. I get called Mother Teresa because when given the name Sister Teresa after Giant Teresa de List, I joined the Irish Order Sisters of Corito. I was given the name Sister Teresa after Giant Teresa de List. I became Mother Teresa after making my final vows. I am famous as the Catholic nun. I also help the poorest out of the poor. My dad died when I was 8 and when he was 45 years old. I did not have kids because I took a vow of chastity. I have been beatified by the Catholic Church. I also never saw my mom or sister ever since I left home to become a missionary. I am also a hero because heroes are compassionate and care about others. And since I showed compassion through caring for the poor, I exhibit necessary qualities of a hero. I also spend so much of my time helping individuals. It is extremely important. I died at the age of 87. I died on September 5, 1997 in Kolkata, India.
Hi, my name is Dr. Seuss. I was born on March 2nd, 1904. I was born in Springfield, MA. I love to draw and write books. My father and I often go to the zoo. Usually I bring my sketch pad to draw. Later on, I started writing real books like Green Eggs and Ham. When I was little, I wasn't treated the same as others. They would throw rocks at me while I was walking home from school because my family was German. At that time, there was a war in Europe that was started by Germany, and many Americans did not like Germans. As the years went by, I met someone new, and we were together for a few years, and we planned to get married, but we couldn't because I was too poor. When I went to college, I started drawing and writing books, and everybody loved them. I got a job and I made more money and we could get married, and my wife started helping me with my job, and I made a world's best-selling book, The Cat in the Hat, in New York. I started writing books in 1937. My wife died in 1967. I died from cancer on September 24th, 1991.
Hi, my name is Thomas Jefferson, and I was born on April 13th, 1743 in Western Virginia. When I was 3 years old, I went on a 55-mile horseback ride and took my dad's slaves into the wilderness. This journey was undertaken with my family as we moved to a plantation that my father was not to manage, acting as an executor for a friend's estate. Throughout my life, I always loved to read. At age 9, I started my formal studies. I studied with a minister teacher 9 months out of the year, and I continued boarding school until age 16. I excelled in classical languages, and in 1760 I enrolled in the College of William and Mary. Throughout my life, I did a couple important things. In 1776, I was our 3rd president. You also remember me for writing the Declaration of Independence. Although I disputed his account, John Adams later recalled that he persuaded me to write this draft because I had the least enemies in Congress and was the best writer. I died of a heart attack July 4th, 1826. I died at the Monticello at age 90.
Hello, my name is Babe Ruth, and I'm going to tell you my story. I was born on February 6th, 1895. My name at birth was George Herman Ruth. I grew up in a poor neighborhood in Baltimore, Maryland. At the age of 7, I was already causing a lot of trouble. I would leave home and wander around the dockyards, where I drank, chewed tobacco, and teased the local police. My family didn't know what to do with me, so they sent me to a reformatory school. I spent 12 years at the reformatory school, where I was first introduced to the game of baseball. By the time I was 15, showed exceptional skills at hitting and pitching. Also, I had a legal guardian to sign my baseball contract. I was only with the minor club for a short time before I got called up to the majors in Boston. I was a left-handed pitcher that proved immediately to be a valuable member of the team. Over the next 5 years, I led the Red Sox to the 3 championships, including the 1916 title, which saw me pitch a still record 13 scoreless innings in one game. Also, how I got the nickname Babe Ruth, it's because my coach acted like my dad, and that's how I got the nickname Babe. I was most famous for baseball with the Yankees. Also, I was really good at hitting home runs. I batted 8,399 times. I have won 94 to 46 in a normal match of baseball. I was extremely flexible. My success on the field was matched by a lifestyle that careered perfectly to a pre-differentiation America hungry for a fast lifestyle. Rumors of my large appetite for food, alcohol, and women were all true. I also loved to spend money. On May 25th, 1935, even though I was greatly overweight, I wanted to remind my fans of my greatness one last time. So I traveled to the Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and hit 3 home runs in one game. In June of 1948, I made my final appearance at Yankee Stadium to celebrate its 25th anniversary. I had cancer at that time, and I passed away 2 months later on August 16, 1948.
Hello, my name is Harriet Tubman. I was born on a plantation in the South. No one has really shared my birthday, as I was born a slave and no one bothered to keep track of it. Really shared my birthday as I was born as a slave and no one bothered to keep track of it. I think I was born in the year of 1820. No one knew that one day I'd grow up to be a hero for my people. As a child, I had a nickname Minty. When I was 6 years old, I was put to work winding yarn and collecting musket traps. When I got older, I was sent to work in the fields. One day, I saw a slave trying to escape.
I stood in front of the door so that he could get out, and the owner threw a rock which hit me in the head and left a large scar. In 1844, I married John Tubman. He was a free man. One day, I learned that I was going to be sold. I didn't want to be separated from my family. So one night, I packed up some food and decided to run away. I had heard that there were people willing to help slaves like me. I found the Underground Railroad and traveled by night to the north and freedom. I found work in a hotel and I never forgot about my family. I wanted them to be free too. One day I learned that my sister and her family were going to be sold. I decided to go back south and help them escape. That was the beginning of my many journeys on the Underground Railroad. Sadly, my husband John didn't want to leave the South, and I never saw him again. In 1861, a war broke out between the North and the South over freeing the slaves. I helped the North by working as a nurse in 1865. The war was over and all slaves were free. I continued to help former slaves the rest of my life. I died in 1913. In my lifetime, I helped more than 300 slaves escape.
Hello, I am George W. Bush. I was the 43rd President of the United States. I was born on July 6, 1946 in New Haven, Connecticut. I was the oldest of 6 children. My parents were George and Barbara Bush. When I was 2, my family moved to Midland, Texas. When I was old enough, I went to the same boarding school as my father, Philippines Academy. I attended Yale University starting in 1968. I was an average student and did not really enjoy sports. 2 weeks before graduating from Yale, I signed up for a pilot training in Texas Air National Guard. I became a fighter pilot in June 1970. In the fall of 1973, I enrolled in Harvard Business School. I graduated from Harvard in 1975 and moved back to Texas. I met my wife at a backyard barbecue. We married 3 months later. We had twin daughters, Barbara and Jenna, named after our mothers. In 1992, I ran for governor of Texas. I was the first governor to be elected to consider 4-year terms. In 1999, I decided to run for President of the United States. I won in a very close race against Al Gore. I was the president for 2 terms and helped the country recover following 9/11. Now Laura and I are retired to our ranch in Texas. I have taken up painting and I am enjoying time with my family.
Hello, my name is Ruby Bridges, and I'm going to tell you my story. I was born in a small cabin near Tylertown, Mississippi, and we were very, very poor. My dad worked picking crops, so we barely got by, and people were bringing machines in to pick crops. So my dad lost his job, so he had to move. I think I was 4 when it happened. In 1957, we moved to New Orleans, and my dad became a janitor. My mom took care of us, and every Sunday we went to church. My mom said we want our kids to be near God's Spirit. And I'm famous because I fought for black kids' school rights. I hope you understand that I'm teaching you to never give up on your dreams and do not let people tell you what to do. Do not stop learning. I'm remembered for fighting for school rights. Whatever got in my way, I never gave up. Be brave. No matter what gets in your way, be brave. And keep going. It was not fair for black people or for anybody. Lots of people agree with me while others don't. Every single day I had to walk through a lot of angry white people. But one day when I was walking in the crowd, I stopped and my teacher looked confused. I paused and then went back inside. My teacher asked, "Why were you talking to those people?" I paused and said I was not talking to them. My teacher asked, "What were you doing then?" I said I was praying. You see, I forgot to pray to God before I got into school.
I was born in a small cabin near Talatown, Mississippi. I was born September 8th, 1954. As a child, I was taking care of my brothers and sisters. As a kid, I loved to climb trees and I liked softball. And the day I went to school was November 14, 1960. Today, I'm 67 years old and I'm married to Malcolm Haas.
Hi, my name is Laura Bush, and I want every child to know how to read so they can learn new stuff. I was born in Midland, Texas on November 4th, 1964. I was Harold and Joan Welch's only child until 2nd grade. I grew up an only child. My parents taught me to love reading. I attempted public school and I love learning. I graduated in 1964. I became a teacher. I went back to college to get a master's degree in librarian science. I worked as a librarian in 1977. I married George W. Bush. George and I had twin daughters. My husband became a governor of Texas in 1994. I was the state's first lady. I encouraged families to read more. I started my Texas Book Festival to raise money for librarians. My husband became president of the United States in 2001, and I became first lady. The end.
Hi, I'm Rosa Parks. I was born on February 4th, 1913. My mother was a teacher and my father was a carpenter. I lived on a farm just outside of Montgomery, Alabama. As a small child, I was sick a lot. My parents got divorced and my mom moved with my brother and I to Pineville to live with my grandparents. My mother taught me to read and write. I was able to attend public school. However, I had to drop out of school to take care for my sick grandmother and my mother. Sadly, I never returned. When I was 19, I got married to Raymond Parks. Raymond was a bartender and very involved in NAP. I soon joined my husband in that movement, and that's how I got involved with civil rights on December 1st, 1955. I was riding the bus home when it became full and I decided not to give up my seat. I didn't think that it was fair to have to stand up. I've been working all day too. The bus driver called the police and I was arrested. My actions that day led to the Montgomery bus boycott. My husband and I moved to Chicago in 1957 where I largely disappeared from public view. I died of natural causes on October 24th, 2005. I was 92 years old. My legacy was improving rights for all African Americans.
Greetings. I'm Franklin D. Roosevelt. I was the 30th President of the United States. People often call me FDR. I was born on January 30th, 1882 in Harbor Park, New York. My parents were weak, I was their only child. I was at home by Terman and my government when I was 14 years old to school in I was a student. I got a lot. However, I was of the school newspaper. I even thought I never finished law school. I got married to Eleanor in March 1905. Eleanor was the first however, of the state. In 1914, I directly born. Even I thought I didn't. When I fell in love in Washington, D.C. Then I made friends, and before long I was voted president In 1921, I discovered polio. I never used my legs. I didn't let that stop me from. I ran the governor of the United New York, and I for deals, and I started of dime to polio reason. That's why my face is on the dime.
Hi, I'm Donald Trump. Would you want to hear my story? Okay, glad you asked. I was born in New York City on June 14, 1946. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I was bright and had a lot of energy, so much so that my parents sent me to a military school, hoping that discipline would help me. I worked at my father's company during my summer breaks. After graduating high school, I attended college. While I was in college, I began working at my dad's company, Trump Organization. Soon the Trump Organization became involved into a variety of projects that it had, including hotels, resorts, residential. I went to Fordham University. I have been married 3 times and have 5 children. Most of my children are working in our family business. I have written books about business and have had a successful TV show. I've been both a Republican and Democrat in the past. Now my party of choice is Republican. In 2016, I ran for office as president. I was a wild card candidate, and I eventually won on January 7, 2017. I was sworn in as the 45th president of the United States. I'm famous for saying, "Make America Great Again."
Hi, my name is Neil Armstrong. I was born August 5th, 1930 in Ohio, USA. As a young boy, I always loved space and airplanes. I even got my pilot license before my driver's license. When I was 17, I went to university to study aerospace engineering. Partway through college, I joined the military and fought in the Korean War. When I returned from the war, I finished my education and joined what would become NASA. In 1962, I entered NASA's astronaut program. My family and I moved to Houston, TX. In 1969, I faced my biggest challenge. I was the first man to land on the moon. More than 1 billion people around the world watched as I took my first steps. I became an American hero and received a lot of attention. I found all of the attention hard, so I decided to teach engineering and returned from my home state of Ohio. I won many awards, but I was best known for being the first man to walk on the moon. Sadly, I died in 2012.
I am George H. Patton, and I was born on November 11th, 1885 in San Gabriel, in California. As a boy, I set my sights on becoming a war hero. During my childhood, I heard countless stories of my ancestors' victories in the American Revolution and the Civil War. As I strived to follow in their footsteps, I enrolled in the Virginia Military Institute. In 1904, over a year later, I attended the U.S. Military Academy. In 1916, I was selected as commander of the American Expeditionary Forces in Mexico to aid John Jay. It was then I had my first real taste of battle when leading a battle cavalry parlor against Pancho Villa at Fort against the Mexican border. I became the most successful combat general in America. By 1917, I became the first officer appointed to the Tank Corps during World War I. During the Battle of Meuse-Argonne, I earned the Distinguished Service Cross for bravery under fire. I enrolled hours of being under attack from gunfire while being severely wounded and would not leave until I was able to safely report to my commander officer. By World War II, I would hit the high point of my career through using unheard of defense tactics by disregarding classic military rules. By 1945, my army had fought over 8 months and capturing more than 80,000 miles, resulting in Germany's surrender. I also assisted in helping liberate numerous concentration camps. I am now remembered in history as being one of the greatest military leaders that the United States have ever seen.